The meeting room was huge. It stretched out like a football field with walls that glowed soft blue. Strange creatures from all over the galaxy sat in their special seats. Some floated in the air. Others stood on platforms that hummed with energy. A few were just clouds of light that changed colors when they talked. Junho stood in the center of it all. He wore his best suit, the dark blue one his mother had bought him before he left Earth. Next to him was a simple metal cart with a food warmer on top. It looked so small and ordinary in this massive alien space station. He had traveled for 6 months to get here. 6 months in a cramped spaceship, eating recycled food and watching the same movies over and over. All of this just to show aliens what humans eat. When Junho signed up for the cultural exchange program, he thought it would be exciting. Right now, he just felt nervous. The chairman of the Galactic Nutrition Board was named Veltrix. He looked like a giant crystal that someone had carved into the shape of a person. Light bounced off him in rainbow colors. When he spoke, his voice came from everywhere at once like surround sound in a movie theater. "We will now hear from the human representative," Veltrix announced. His voice sounded bored. "Please proceed with your presentation." Junho took a deep breath. Behind the chairman sat 11 other board members. Each one looked completely different from the others. There was a floating ball of gas that kept changing from purple to green. There was a creature that looked like a walking plant with too many arms. One member was just a pattern of lights that hung in the air, blinking in weird rhythms. "Thank you, honored chairman," Junho said. His voice sounded small in the huge room. "My name is Dr. Junho Kim, and I come from Earth to share our food culture with you." A sound filled the room. It took Junho a moment to realize the aliens were laughing. Well, not exactly laughing. The plant creature made a rustling noise. The gas ball pulsed faster. The light pattern blinked in what might have been amusement. The vice chair floated forward. Her name was Sylphmere, and she looked like a jellyfish made of air. She had no solid body, just a shape that drifted through the space. When she spoke, Junho heard her voice in his head rather than through his ears. "Human," Sylphmere said, and somehow Junho could tell she was being condescending. "We have reviewed your preliminary scans. Your species has very basic taste receptors. Just 5 types. 5. Most of us have hundreds. Some have thousands. What could you possibly show us that we haven't seen before?" Junho had expected this. During the preliminary hearings 3 months ago, he had heard the same thing. The galaxy was full of amazing creatures with incredible abilities. Some could taste light. Others could sense flavors in 4 dimensions. One species could taste time itself, whatever that meant. Humans just had tongues. Regular boring tongues with taste buds for sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. That was it. "I understand your concern," Junho said politely. He had practiced this speech 100 times. "But humans have learned to work with what we have. We may be simple, but we've spent thousands of years perfecting our food." Near the back of the cart, Junho's assistant Yoonji Park shifted her weight. She was nervous too. Yoonji had joined the program 2 years ago, and had been on the station for 6 months already. She knew how the aliens thought. She had warned Junho that this would be hard. "Very well," Veltrix said with a sigh that sounded like wind chimes. "Begin your demonstration. But please be quick. We have 17 other species to evaluate this month." Junho opened the food warmer and pulled out his first dish. The smell of fermented vegetables filled the air. Several aliens immediately moved back. Their instruments started beeping. "This is kimchi," Junho explained, holding up a small bowl of the red, spicy cabbage. "It's made through fermentation. We let bacteria break down the vegetables over several weeks." The board members leaned forward slightly. A long metal arm extended from the ceiling, holding what looked like a camera with too many lenses. It scanned the kimchi from every angle. Numbers and symbols Junho couldn't read appeared on screens around the room. Veltrix studied the data. Fermented food. Interesting bacterial cultures, but we've seen this before. The acid levels are pedestrian. This is category C7 at best. Primitive fermentation. Junho tried not to feel disappointed. He put the kimchi away and pulled out the next dish. Thin slices of marinated beef perfectly grilled with a sweet and savory smell. "This is bulgogi," he said. "Beef marinated in soy sauce, sugar, garlic, and sesame oil, then grilled." More scanners descended from the ceiling. The instruments hummed and beeped. The board members looked at their screens. One of them, a creature that looked like living electricity, made a crackling sound. "The Maillard reaction is competent," Veltrix admitted. His crystal body shifted to a slightly warmer color. You've achieved good caramelization of the amino acids. However, 16 other species have already shown us superior versions of this technique. Category C5. Yoonji leaned close to Junho and whispered in Korean, hoping the translation devices wouldn't pick it up. They're not even tasting it. They're just scanning everything with their machines. She was right. Not one alien had actually put the food in their mouth or whatever they had instead of mouths. They just pointed their instruments at everything and read the data. It was like judging a painting by measuring the chemical composition of the paint. Junho nodded slowly. He looked at his cart. There was one more dish waiting in the warmer. He had saved it for last. His grandmother's recipe, modified slightly for this exact moment. Honored board members, Junho said, his voice getting stronger. I have one final dish to present. We call it a taco. Veltrix waved one crystalline hand dismissively. Another protein wrapped in grain. We've documented 2,000 variations of this concept. But proceed. Let's finish this evaluation. Junho smiled. He rolled up his sleeves and pulled out fresh tortillas. Still warm, he began to assemble the taco slowly, carefully like he was performing surgery. Ground beef seasoned just right, shredded lettuce, diced tomatoes, cheese, sour cream. Then he reached for the special containers he had packed himself. Fresh jalapenos chopped fine. His grandmother's special hot sauce, the one that made even his father sweat. And finally, a small bottle of ghost pepper powder that he had hidden in his personal luggage, because he knew the official cargo scanners might flag it. He sprinkled it all on top, generous amounts of each. The taco sat on the plate innocent and perfect. Please, Junho said, stepping back with his hands open. Scan it. The instruments moved forward. Junho and Yoonji exchanged a quick glance. What happened next would either make human cuisine famous across the galaxy, or get them both arrested, probably both. The scanner's beam touched the taco, and somewhere in the station's computer systems, alarms started to wake up. The gustatory essence detector was the pride of the Galactic Nutrition Board. It had been built over 50 years by the finest scientists in the galaxy. It could analyze a single molecule and tell you everything about how it would taste to any known species. The device looked like a floating crystal eye, about the size of a basketball, covered in tiny sensors that glowed soft blue. It drifted toward Junho's taco, like a curious cat approaching something new. The beam it shot out was usually blue, a calm scanning light that read molecular structures. Today the beam started blue, then it turned orange, then red, then a color that Junho was pretty sure didn't exist on Earth. The detector started to shake. At first it was just a small vibration, like a phone buzzing in your pocket. The board members looked up from their data screens, curious. This was unusual. The detector never shook. It was designed to be perfectly stable. The shaking got worse. The crystal eye began to rattle violently, bouncing around in the air. Small cracks appeared on its surface, thin lines spreading like a dropped phone screen. That's not normal, Sylphmere said. Her gaseous form pulsed yellow, which Junho had learned meant concern. Obviously not. Veltrix snapped. His crystal body flashed red with annoyance. He pressed buttons on his control panel. Detector reduced scanning intensity. Lower power to 30%. The detector ignored him, or maybe it couldn't hear him anymore. The cracks were spreading faster now, covering the whole surface. The device was screaming, a high-pitched whine that hurt Junho's ears. Red lights started flashing all over the chamber. Emergency, announced a calm computer voice. Detector malfunction, evacuate immediate area. No one moved. They were all staring at the detector in shock. Nothing like this had ever happened before. The gustatory essence detector had scanned food from 847 different species over 3,000 years. It had analyzed dishes made from impossible ingredients, foods that existed in multiple dimensions at once, meals that technically violated the laws of physics. It had never so much as hiccuped. Now it was screaming, "Shut it down." Veltrix roared, his voice filling the entire chamber like thunder. Too late. The detector exploded. It wasn't like a bomb in a movie. There was no fire, no big boom. Instead, the crystal eye just came apart, breaking into a million tiny pieces that flew in every direction. Each piece was glowing hot, trailing sparks. The fragments bounced off force fields, embedded themselves in walls, and rained down across the presentation area like deadly confetti. Junho grabbed Yoonji and pulled her down behind the food cart. They hit the floor hard as debris whistled over their heads. A piece of crystal the size of his thumb buried itself in the wall right where Junho's head had been. But the detector wasn't done. As it died, it sent out one last pulse of energy, a wave of pure scanning force that hit every other instrument in the room. The molecular analyzer, a sleek silver device worth more than a small planet, started smoking. Its display screen showed numbers climbing higher and higher, past any reasonable measurement, into ranges labeled theoretical impossibility and error, does not compute. The flavor spectrum scanner, which looked like a fancy telescope, simply gave up. Its metal housing started to glow red, then orange, then white. Then it melted. The expensive instruments that had cost millions of credits to build turned into liquid metal and dripped onto the pristine white floor like candle wax. Alarms blared from every direction. Red emergency lights replaced the calm blue glow. Force fields snapped into place around each board member, protective bubbles that kept them safe. Automated fire suppression systems kicked in, and suddenly the whole room was full of white foam that smelled like chemicals. Through it all, at the center of the chaos, the taco sat on its plate, untouched, still warm, perfectly innocent. The foam settled. The alarm stopped. The emergency lights faded back to normal. Junho and Yoonji slowly stood up, covered in white foam and crystal dust. They looked at each other, then at the destruction around them. 12 of the most advanced food analysis instruments in the galaxy were now just expensive garbage. The door burst open with a bang. 6 armed guards rushed in, wearing heavy armor that made them look like robots. They were Ktharniks, beings made of pure electricity that wore special suits to interact with solid matter. Their weapons hummed with energy, pointing at Junho and Yoonji. "Freeze!" the lead guard shouted. "Do not move!" Junho raised his hands slowly. Yoonji did the same. They stood very still as the guards surrounded them, weapons aimed at their heads. More guards poured into the room, securing the area, checking the board members for injuries. Veltrix's force field dropped. His crystal body was bright red now, glowing with rage. He stomped toward Junho, each step making the floor shake. When he spoke, his voice was so loud that Junho felt it in his chest. "What have you done?" Veltrix demanded. "You brought a weapon to this station. This is an act of war. Do you understand what you've done? You've destroyed irreplaceable equipment. You've endangered the board. You've violated every safety protocol we have." Junho stood there, hands still raised, foam dripping off his suit. He looked at the destroyed instruments. He looked at the angry aliens. He looked at the guards with their weapons. And he looked at the taco still sitting there, still perfectly fine. "Honored Chairman," Junho said quietly. "I brought lunch." The room went silent. Every alien stared at him. Sylphmir's gaseous form turned a color that might have been confusion. The plant creature's many arms drooped. The living electricity patterns flickered uncertainly. "Lunch?" Veltrix repeated. His voice was quieter now, but somehow more dangerous. "You call that lunch?" "Yes, sir," Junho said. He was in so much trouble, he knew it. But he was also confused. It was just food. Spicy food, yes, but just food. It's a taco. It's what humans eat. Well, some humans. It's popular where I'm from. One of the guards moved closer, his weapon still pointed at Junho. "Sir, we need to secure the device. Whatever weapon he smuggled in." "It's not a weapon," Yoonji said. Her voice was shaking, but she spoke anyway. "It's a beef taco with jalapenos and hot sauce. That's all. I watched him make it. There's nothing else in it." Veltrix turned to look at her, then back at Junho, then at the taco. His crystal body slowly faded from red to orange, which might have meant he was thinking. "Guards," he said finally. "Take them to detention. Seal the room. Get a hazmat team in here to secure that thing. And someone call Dr. Minho Lee. We need a human scientist to explain what just happened." The guards grabbed Junho and Yoonji, not roughly but firmly. They were escorted out of the chamber, leaving behind the destroyed instruments, the foam-covered floor, and one taco that had somehow managed to break the most advanced technology in the galaxy. As they walked down the corridor toward the detention area, Yoonji leaned close to Junho and whispered in Korean, "I told you to go easy on the ghost pepper." Junho almost laughed. Almost, but he was too scared. What had he done? Would Earth get in trouble? Would he spend the rest of his life in alien jail? Behind them in the ruined chamber, scientists in protective suits carefully approached the taco like it was a bomb. They surrounded it with scanners, keeping their distance, treating it with the respect usually reserved for unstable nuclear materials. One scientist, braver or more foolish than the others, leaned in close to the plate. He was wearing a full hazmat suit with triple-filtered air supply. Very carefully, he took a small sensor and touched it to the taco's shell. The sensor beeped once. Then it burst into flames. The scientist jumped back, dropping the sensor. His colleagues pulled him away from the taco as the burning sensor melted into slag on the floor. The head scientist, a Veltorian named Prism 3, stared at the taco with something that looked like fear. "Get me everything Earth has ever published about their cuisine," he said quietly. "Everything." And someone explained to me how a species that only has 5 types of taste receptors managed to create something that melts our instruments. No one had an answer. The taco sat on its plate, cooling slightly, releasing the faint smell of cumin and capsaicin into the air. The galaxy, though it didn't know it yet, was about to learn something new about humans. The detention suite was nicer than Junho expected. It wasn't a jail cell with bars. Instead, it looked like a fancy hotel room with a living area, a bedroom, and even a bathroom. The only problem was that the door wouldn't open from the inside, and there were cameras watching everything. Junho sat on the couch, his head in his hands. Yoonji paced back and forth, still covered in foam from the explosion. They had been here for 3 hours now, and no one would tell them anything. "This is bad," Yoonji said for the 10th time. "This is really, really bad. Do you think they'll send us home? Do you think Earth will get kicked out of the cultural exchange program?" "I don't know," Junho admitted. His grandmother's recipe had seemed like such a good idea. Show the aliens something with real flavor, something with character. How was he supposed to know their fancy instruments couldn't handle a little spice? The door finally opened. A human walked in, a man in his 40s wearing a white lab coat. He had tired eyes and messy hair, like someone who hadn't slept in days. His name tag said, Dr. Minho Lee, xenobiologist. "Dr. Kim, Ms. Park," Minho said, shaking their hands. "I'm here to help. The board has called an emergency tribunal to investigate what happened. They want answers, and honestly, so do I." "What did you put in that taco?" Wunyo explained everything. The ground beef seasoned with cumin, paprika, and chili powder. The fresh jalapenos. His grandmother's hot sauce made with Korean red pepper flakes. And yes, the ghost pepper powder as a finishing touch. Minho listened carefully, taking notes on his data pad. When Junho finished, the scientist sat down heavily on the chair across from them. "Oh boy," Minho said quietly. Okay, I need to explain this to the tribunal, and they are not going to believe me." "Explain what?" Yoonji asked. "Why our food broke their machines," Minho said. He rubbed his eyes. "You see, they've been studying human biology since we joined the Galactic community 5 years ago. They know we're different, but they didn't really understand how different until now." He pulled up holographic images from his datapad. They showed human tongue cells next to alien taste receptors. Even Junho could see how simple humans looked compared to the complex alien biology. "Most galactic species taste things at a molecular level," Minho explained. "They can identify every single chemical compound in food. They experience flavor as pure data. Sweet means they're detecting glucose molecules. Bitter means they're sensing alkaloids. It's all very scientific and precise. And humans?" Junyo asked. "We're weird," Minho said with a tired smile. "We don't just taste chemicals. We experience food emotionally. And the weirdest part is that we seek out pain as part of eating." "Pain?" Yoonji repeated. Minho nodded. "Capsicum, the chemical in peppers, doesn't create a taste. It creates pain. It triggers the same receptors that warn you about fire or acid. Your mouth is literally telling your brain that you're being burned. But humans learn to like that feeling. We crave it. We build entire cuisines around it." He stood up and started pacing, getting excited as he explained. "And it's not just capsaicin, piperine and black pepper, isothiocyanates in wasabi and mustard, gingerol and ginger. These are defensive chemicals that plants evolve to keep animals from eating them. Every other species in the galaxy tastes these compounds and runs away. Humans taste them and ask for more." Junho had never thought about it that way. He just liked spicy food. Everyone back home did. It was normal. "So the instruments," Yoonji said slowly, "they couldn't understand what they were scanning?" "Worse," Minho said. "The gustatory essence detector tries to predict how something will taste to any species in its database. It scans the molecular structure and calculates the sensory experience. But when it scanned your taco, It found compounds that should trigger pure pain and danger responses. Then it found that humans somehow categorized these same compounds as pleasant. The detector literally couldn't process the contradiction. It's like asking a computer to divide by zero. There was a knock on the door. A guard opened it and gestured to Minho. "The tribunal is ready." The tribunal chamber was smaller than the presentation room, but somehow more intimidating. Veltrix sat at the center of a curved table, with Sylphmere and 3 other senior board members beside him. Guards stood along the walls. Everything was being recorded. Junho and Yunji sat in chairs that felt too small. Minho stood beside them as their expert witness. The aliens stared down at them from their elevated positions, and Junho felt like a student being scolded by the principal. "Dr. Lee," Veltrix began, his crystal body a cold blue color now, "please explain to this tribunal what exactly happened in the presentation chamber." Minho stepped forward. He had prepared a whole presentation with charts and graphs. He showed molecular structures, evolutionary biology, cultural anthropology. He talked about how humans evolved in environments where spicy plants offered protection from parasites and bacteria. He explained how eating hot food could trigger endorphin releases, making pain pleasurable. The aliens listened in silence. As Mio talked, their expressions changed. The plant creature's leaves rustled nervously. The living electricity patterns blinked faster and faster. Sylphmere's gaseous form kept shifting colors, from blue to green to yellow and back again. "You're telling me," said Pulse 7, the electromagnetic being, "that humans deliberately poison themselves? For entertainment?" "Well, I wouldn't call it poison exactly," Minho said. "It's more like controlled exposure to irritating compounds." "That sounds like poison," Pulse 7 said flatly. Veltrix held up one crystalline hand for silence. "Dr. Lee, I've reviewed the data from the destroyed instruments. Before they failed, they detected capsaicin levels that would be classified as a Class 3 chemical weapon by galactic standards. You brought a chemical weapon to our station." "It's not a weapon," Junho said, standing up. Everyone looked at him. "I'm sorry, but it's not a weapon. It's just food. My grandmother makes it every Sunday. My little cousins eat it. It's completely normal for humans." "Your little cousins eat chemical weapons?" Sylphmere asked in disbelief. "They're not." Junho stopped. How could he explain? "Look, I understand it seems strange to you, but millions of humans eat spicy food every day. We put hot sauce on eggs. We make spicy soup. We have contests to see who can eat the hottest peppers. It's part of our culture." Veltrix leaned forward. His crystal body reflected the light in complicated patterns. "Dr. Kim, we've been running the Galactic Nutrition Board for 3,000 years. We've studied cuisines from nearly 1,000 species. We've seen foods that glow in the dark. We've tasted dishes that exist in multiple dimensions. We've analyzed meals that require quantum mechanics to properly digest. But never in all that time have we encountered a species that uses pain as a flavoring." The room went quiet. Unyo didn't know what to say. He looked at Yunji, who just shrugged helplessly. "Honored Chairman," Minho said carefully, "with respect, I think this reveals more about galactic cuisine than human cuisine. You've spent 3,000 years studying species that experience food rationally. Humans are different. We're emotional eaters. We don't just analyze our food. We experience it. Sometimes that experience includes pain, and we've learned to transform that pain into pleasure." "That's insane," muttered one of the board members, a creature that looked like a floating brain in a jar. "Maybe," Minho agreed, "but it's also what makes human cuisine unique. You asked what we could contribute to the Galactic Culinary Archive. This is it. We're the only species crazy enough to enjoy suffering through our meals." Veltrix was quiet for a long moment. His body slowly changed colors, cycling through the spectrum as he thought. Finally he spoke. "This tribunal will adjourn for deliberation. Dr. Kim, Ms. Park, you will remain in detention until we reach a decision. Dr. Lee, prepare a full report on human culinary evolution. And someone tell the hazmat team to stop trying to dispose of that taco. Apparently it's not dangerous. It's just spicy." As the guards escorted them back to detention, Junho heard the aliens talking among themselves, their voices full of confusion and wonder. "Did you hear?" One guard whispered to another. "They have something called ghost peppers, rated at over 1 million Scoville units. 1 million! And they eat them on purpose." "I heard about their wasabi," the other guard replied. "It clears their sinuses. They actually like that feeling. Junho smiled despite everything. For the first time since the explosion, he felt a tiny bit of hope. Maybe they would understand. Maybe they would see that humans weren't trying to cause trouble. They were just being human. Back in his suite, Junho lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere in this station, scientists were probably studying that taco like it was an alien artifact. They were running tests, taking samples, trying to understand how something so simple could be so dangerous. He wished his grandmother could see this. She would laugh so hard. Dr. Hana Choi had been working on Nutrition Board Station Epsilon 7 for 2 years. She was a biochemist specializing in cross-species nutrition, and she thought she had seen everything. She was wrong. When they called her to the containment lab at 3 in the morning, she knew something big had happened. What she found was a room full of panicked alien scientists in hazmat suits, all staring at a taco sitting in a stasis field like it was a nuclear bomb. Dr. Choi, thank goodness, said Prism 3, the lead Veltorian scientist. His crystalline form was flashing nervous yellow. We need you to explain this, please. My team is terrified. Hana walked around the stasis field looking at the taco from all angles. She saw the ground beef, the lettuce, the tomatoes. She saw the jalapenos and the red sheen of hot sauce. She smiled. You scanned this, didn't you? She asked. Yes, Prism 3 said. 3 instruments were destroyed in the process. The readings made no sense. We detected compounds that registered as biological hazards, Class 3 chemical irritants, substances that should require a permit to transport. All in food that humans supposedly eat, for pleasure. Hana pulled off her jacket and rolled up her sleeves. Okay, I'm going to show you something, but I need you to promise not to panic. What are you going to do? Prism 3 asked nervously. I'm going to eat it. The lab went silent. Every alien in the room stared at her like she had just announced she was going to jump out an airlock. Absolutely not, Prism 3 said. Dr. Choi, we cannot allow you to expose yourself to those compounds. You could suffer severe tissue damage, neurological trauma. We don't even know. I know, Hana interrupted gently. I've been eating food like this my whole life. I had kimchi this morning. Trust me, this is safe. For humans, anyway. Before anyone could stop her, she deactivated the stasis field, picked up the taco, and took a bite. It was cold by now, but the flavors were still good. The jalapenos had a nice kick. The hot sauce her colleague Junho made was excellent, with that perfect balance of heat and flavor. She chewed slowly, swallowed, and took another bite. The aliens watched in horror. Some of them backed away. One scientist actually fainted, his floating orb body dropping to the floor with a clunk. See? Hana said, finishing the taco. Completely safe. Delicious, actually. Could use some more cilantro, though. You ate it, Prism 3 whispered. The chemical weapon. You just ate it. It's not a weapon, Hana said, wiping her mouth with a napkin. It's lunch. And now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go explain to the tribunal why human food keeps breaking your instruments. The emergency tribunal session happened at dawn. This time there were more aliens present. News had spread through the station about the taco incident, and everyone wanted to hear the explanation. Scientists crowded into the back of the chamber. Junior staff members found excuses to be nearby. Even maintenance workers stopped to listen through the doors. Hana stood at the presentation podium, her laptop connected to the room's holographic display system. She had prepared this lecture many times for different audiences, but never for aliens who had just watched their equipment explode. Good morning, honored board members, she began. I'm Dr. Hana Choi, and I've been studying human cuisine for 15 years. Today I'm going to explain why we eat pain. The hologram behind her showed a simple pepper plant, then a molecular diagram of capsaicin, then an image of a human tongue with labeled receptors. Humans have a receptor called TRPV1, Hana explained. It's designed to detect dangerous temperatures and chemicals. When you touch something hot, TRPV1 tells your brain to pull away. When you get acid on your skin, TRPV1 warns you. It's a survival mechanism. The aliens nodded. This made sense. Every species had similar warning systems. But humans, Hana continued, discovered that certain plant compounds trigger TRPV1 without actually causing damage. Capsaicin from peppers, piperine from black pepper. These chemicals make your mouth feel like it's burning, but it's not really burning. It's a false alarm. So why do you eat them? Asked Sylphmere, her gaseous form pulsing with confusion. Because, Hana said with a smile, the false alarm triggers an endorphin response. Our brains release natural painkillers to deal with the threat. Those painkillers make us feel good. Really good. So we started eating these plants on purpose to get that feeling. She clicked to the next slide, showing ancient human history. We think it started about 10,000 years ago in hot climates. Spicy foods help preserve meat by killing bacteria. They make you sweat, which cools you down. They clear your sinuses when you're sick. So eating spicy food had real benefits, but why continue? Veltrix asked. Surely humans have better preservation methods now. Better medicine. Why still eat pain? Because we like it, Hannah said simply. It became part of our culture. Every region on Earth developed their own spicy foods. India has curry. Mexico has peppers. Korea has gochugaru. Thailand has bird's eye chilies. China has Sichuan peppercorns. It's not just about the chemicals anymore. It's about identity, tradition, community. She showed images of Earth foods, spicy soups and stews, hot sauces in hundreds of varieties, pepper eating contests. The aliens watched with something between fascination and horror. We breed peppers to be hotter, Hannah continued. We compete to see who can eat the spiciest food. We have scales to measure heat like the Scoville scale. The jalapenos in that taco measured about 5,000 Scoville units. That's mild for us. We have peppers that measure over 2 million Scoville units. That's madness, whispered one board member. That's humanity, Hannah corrected. We take things that should hurt us and turn them into pleasure. It's not just peppers. We drink coffee and tea, which contain caffeine, a plant toxin. We eat chocolate with theobromine, another toxin. We consume alcohol, which is literally a poison that our liver has to process. We evolved to not just tolerate these things, but to enjoy them. Prism 3 raised a crystalline hand. Dr. Choi, this explains human biology, but it doesn't explain why our instruments failed. They've scanned toxic compounds before. Because, Hannah said, your instruments tried to predict how the food would taste. They scanned capsaicin and calculated that any species tasting it would experience pain, danger, and the urgent need to stop eating. Then they scanned human saliva residue on the plate and found markers of pleasure, satisfaction, and the desire for more. Your instruments encountered a logical impossibility. Pain equals pleasure. Danger equals enjoyment. They couldn't compute it. The chamber was silent. Aliens looked at each other, their various forms rippling with confusion. So you're saying, Veltrix said slowly, that human cuisine is based on a fundamental contradiction? No, Hannah said. I'm saying human cuisine is based on choice. We choose to experience pain. We choose to push our limits. We choose to feel things intensely, even when those feelings are uncomfortable. That's what makes us human. She clicked to her final slide. It showed humans from all over Earth, from every culture, all eating their traditional foods, smiling despite the sweat on their faces, laughing despite the tears in their eyes, together sharing meals that brought them joy even as it brought them pain. This is what you can't measure with instruments, Hannah said. The social aspect, the emotional connection, the memories tied to these foods. When my colleague Junho made that taco, he wasn't just combining ingredients. He was sharing his grandmother's recipe. He was offering you a piece of human culture. He was saying, well, this is who we are. By destroying our equipment? Pulse 7 asked dryly. That was an accident, Hannah said. But maybe it proves my point. Human cuisine isn't meant to be studied from a distance. It's meant to be experienced, carefully, with preparation and understanding, but experienced. You can't understand us by just scanning our food. You have to taste it, feel it, share it. Veltrix stood up. His crystal body had changed to a deep purple. The color Hannah had learned meant deep thought. Dr. Choi, are you suggesting that we need to reevaluate our entire approach to culinary analysis? I'm suggesting, Hannah said, that some things can't be measured. Some things can only be felt, and maybe that's okay. The tribunal adjourned for another deliberation. As Hannah packed up her laptop, young scientists approached her with questions. How hot was too hot? Could other species learn to enjoy capsaicin? Were there humans who didn't like spicy food? She answered as best she could, but her mind was elsewhere. Somewhere in this station, Junho and Unji were still in detention, worried about their futures. Hannah hoped her testimony had helped. She hoped the board would understand. As she left the chamber, she passed a group of junior technicians huddled around a datapad, watching videos from Earth. They were watching a human pepper eating contest. Their various sensory organs fixed on the screen in fascinated horror. They're crying, one technician said, but they're also laughing. How is that possible? That's humanity. Hana said with a smile. We're full of contradictions. Get used to it. 6 weeks after the taco incident, Nutrition Board Station Epsilon 7 had changed in ways nobody expected. The quiet research station had become the most talked-about place in the galaxy. Scientists from 50 different species had arrived, all wanting to study human food. News organizations sent reporters. Universities sent students. Even tourists started showing up, hoping to catch a glimpse of the famous deadly taco. Junho was finally released from detention after 2 weeks. The tribunal had decided he wasn't a terrorist, just a human with poor judgment about what aliens could handle. He wasn't charged with any crimes, but he did have to attend several very awkward meetings where he apologized repeatedly for breaking expensive equipment. The strange part was what happened next. Junho became famous. Not Earth famous, galaxy famous. His face was on news feeds across 100 worlds. People called him the Pepper Man and the human who broke science. Young aliens thought he was cool. Older aliens thought he was dangerous. Everyone wanted to know more. Dr. Yuna Han arrived 3 weeks after the incident. She was a human anthropologist who specialized in food culture, and the board had hired her to give lectures about human cuisine. Her first presentation filled the station's largest auditorium. Standing room only. Aliens from species that didn't even have traditional food came just to listen. Thank you all for coming, Yuna began, looking out at the crowd of strange creatures. Today I want to talk about why humans eat the way we do. Not just the biology, which Dr. Choi explained brilliantly, but the culture, the why behind the what. She showed pictures of Earth zooming in on different regions. On Earth, food is more than fuel. It's art, it's history, it's love. When a Korean grandmother makes kimchi, she's not just preserving cabbage. She's passing down a recipe that her grandmother taught her, and that grandmother's grandmother before that. Every family's kimchi tastes different. Every batch tells a story. The aliens listened, fascinated. Some took notes. Others recorded everything. When humans share spicy food, we're doing something special, Yuna continued. We're showing trust. We're saying, I know this will hurt a little, but I think you're strong enough to handle it. We're creating shared experiences. When everyone at the table is sweating and laughing and reaching for water, we're bonding. We're together in the struggle. But why make it a struggle? Asked someone from the audience. Why not just make food pleasant? Yuna smiled. Because life isn't just pleasant. Life is complicated. It's sweet and bitter, comfortable and challenging. Human cuisine reflects that. We don't just want food that tastes good. We want food that makes us feel alive. After the lecture, aliens crowded around her with questions. But one question came up more than any other. Can we try it? Can we taste human food? That's how the human spice experience was born. Sungho Park, a young human who ran a small cafe on the station, volunteered to organize it. He was 23, energetic and thrilled to be part of galactic history. Okay, Seungho said to the 12 brave volunteers who signed up for the first tasting. We're going to start very mild and work our way up. If anything feels too intense, just say stop. We have water, milk, and medical teams standing by. The volunteers sat around a large table. Each one had signed multiple waivers. Each one wore a medical monitor. Yoonji and several other humans sat nearby with tablets, ready to take notes on the aliens' reactions. First, Seungho said, placing small bowls in front of each alien, we have mild salsa. This is made with tomatoes, onions, and a tiny bit of jalapeno. On a human scale, this is about as gentle as it gets. The aliens approached it carefully. Different species had different ways of eating. Some absorbed the salsa through their skin. Others scanned it first, then processed it through various organs. One alien who looked like a walking tree had to soak their roots in it. Almost immediately, reactions started. The Veltorian's crystal body flashed orange. The Erothian's gaseous form turned purple and expanded. The tree creature's leaves started to curl. Burning, one alien gasped. It's burning my sensors. Water, another one cried. I need water. Half the volunteers gave up after the salsa. They stumbled to the medical area, their various physiologies overwhelmed by what humans considered extremely mild heat. The medical staff gave them neutralizing agents and cold compresses. The remaining 6 aliens looked at each other nervously. Seungho brought out the next dish, cheese pizza with pepperoni. This is called pizza, he explained. The pepperoni has a small amount of spice in it. Very small. 5 more aliens gave up after one bite. They apologized profusely as they left, embarrassed but also relieved. The burning sensation was too much. Their bodies were screaming danger and they couldn't override that instinct. Only one alien remained. His name was Volt 9, a Ktharnix made of electrical energy in a containment suit. He had watched the others quit with something that looked like determination. "I will continue," Volt 9 said, his voice crackling with static. Seung-ho looked worried. "Are you sure?" "We can stop here. You've already done more than most." "No," Volt 9 said firmly. "Humans eat this regularly. Children eat this. If a human child can handle it, I can handle it." Seung-ho brought out the final dish. 3 small drops of medium hot sauce on a cracker. Not even very hot by human standards. Just medium. Volt 9 studied the cracker like it was an enemy. His electromagnetic field pulsed with what might have been fear. But he picked up the cracker carefully. He consumed it by breaking it down into component atoms and processing them through his energy matrix. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Volt 9's entire containment suit started to glow. Warning alarms beeped on his medical monitor. His energy field flickered wildly. Colors Yoonji had never seen before. "I'm fine," Volt 9 said quickly, even though his voice was distorted. It's intense. Every sensor is telling me I'm dying. But I'm not dying. I'm just experiencing." The medical team hovered nervously, ready to intervene, but Volt 9 held up one hand, asking them to wait. He processed the sensations for a full minute, his field gradually stabilizing. "It was horrible," he finally said. "Absolutely horrible. My entire energy matrix felt wrong. Every instinct said to shut down and rebuild." "I'm so sorry," Seung-ho said. "We should have stopped." "But," Volt 9 interrupted, "I understand now. The pain and the pleasure. They're connected. When the burning stopped, I felt different, better, stronger. Is that the endorphins Dr. Choi mentioned?" "Probably," Yoonji said, checking her tablet. "Your energy readings show a pattern similar to what humans experience after eating spicy food." Volt 9 looked at the empty plate where the cracker had been. "I want to try again." The human stared at him. "Are you serious?" Seung-ho asked. "I am," Volt 9 said. "Not now. My systems need time to recover, but yes, I want to understand this better. I want to feel it again." Word spread quickly. The alien who survived the human spice experience became famous. Other aliens approached Seung-ho wanting to try. Some came out of curiosity. Others came because their friends dared them. A few came because they wanted to prove they were brave. Seung-ho ended up running the experience 3 times a week. Most aliens couldn't get past the salsa. Some made it to pizza. Very few made it to the hot sauce. But they kept coming. Meanwhile, the Galactic Nutrition Board continued their deliberations. 6 weeks of meetings, debates, and consultations with experts from across the galaxy. They studied human history. They reviewed thousands of recipes. They interviewed every human on the station multiple times. Junho waited nervously for the verdict. He went back to work at the Cultural Exchange Office, processing paperwork and answering questions from curious aliens. But every day he wondered what the board would decide. Would they ban human food as too dangerous? Would they give it a low rating for being too simple? Would they just laugh at the species that enjoyed pain? Finally, the summons came. The board was ready to announce their decision. Junho, Eunji, Yuna, Minho, Hana, and Seung-ho all gathered in the presentation chamber. It had been rebuilt after the explosion, with newer, stronger instruments designed to handle extreme chemical compounds. Chairman Veltrix stood at his podium, his crystal body a calm blue. The other board members sat beside him. The chamber was packed with observers. Cameras recorded everything. "Dr. Junho Kim," Veltrix began, his voice formal and serious. "6 weeks ago you presented human cuisine to this board. The results were unexpected." A ripple of laughter went through the alien audience. Even Veltrix's body flickered with what might have been amusement. "We have now completed our evaluation," the chairman continued. "Human cuisine represents something we have never encountered in 3,000 years of culinary study. You have created food that our instruments cannot safely analyze. You have developed taste preferences that contradict all known biological safety protocols. You have built entire cultures around consuming what other species classify as toxins." Junho held his breath. Here it comes. The rejection, the mockery. "It is magnificent," Veltrix said. Junho blinked. I'm sorry, what? Your species has achieved something remarkable, Beltrix continued. You have weaponized flavor. You have turned pain into art. You have created cuisine that cannot be studied objectively because it requires subjective experience. This is unprecedented. The giant display behind the chairman lit up, showing the official rating,